Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today we'll be discussing another question from the blind 75 list of problems, and this question is called longest consecutive sequence. So let's go through the question. We are given an unsorted array of strings nums, and we are supposed to return the length of the longest consecutive elements in that particular array of integers. So for example, the first example we are given is 104, 201, 3 and 2. So the longest consecutive sequence I can find in this array is 1, 2, 3 and 4. That is of length 4. And we are supposed to return the length of this longest consecutive sequence and not the sequence itself. So the length is 1, 2, 3 and 4. That is 4 length. Similarly, for the second example, we are given 0, 3, 7, 2, 5, 8, 4, 6, 0, 1. So in this example, we start with 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we went from 0 to 8. So the output is 9. We are supposed to write an algorithm that runs in O of n time to solve this, and the length of the input array is 10 raised to power 5, and nums I is maximum 10 raised to power 9 to minus 10 raised to power 9. Now the first thing we think of when we are supposed to find the consecutive elements in a particular array is of sorting. So if we sort this particular array, this will become 1, 2, 3, 4 and 100 and 200. Now can we use this array to find the length of the longest consecutive sequence? Let's start from the first element, and when we move on to the next element, we check the previous element if this was n minus 1 or not. So 2 minus 1 is 1, which is there in the previous one. So we know that these two are consecutive. So once we reach here, let's take a length that is current consecutive length. Let's name it anything, CCL for now, and let it be 1 for every number with which we start. So let it be 1 initially, and when we move on to 2, we know that 2 is 1 greater than 1, so this change this to 2. We'll also find max of all these, which will be our answer. So after 2 we move on to 3. 3 is also 1 greater than 2, so this changes to 3. Then we move on to 4. 4 is 1 greater than 3, so this changes to 4. Now we move on to 100, but 100 is not 1 greater than 4, so this changes to 1 again. And it will stay 1 until we find another sequence with which it increases, say in the same fashion, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we find the max of these values. So in these, the max value was 4, so that will be our answer. One thing to note here is that we'll only enter this loop when nums I is equal to nums I minus 1 plus 1, and these two numbers are not the same. So let's say we had an array where numbers were repeating. For example, let's just modify this example only, and it was 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and let's say 400, 200. So here what would happen is that we'll break off if we don't add that condition. But here also the answer should be 4 because 1, 2, 3, 4 is the longest sequence. So here what will happen? Let's say we have this variable CCL, which we were calculating earlier. I start with 1. This is 1 initially for every number. I move on to 2. 2 is 1 greater than 1. So this changes to 2. Now when I move on to the next 2, I'll check if the previous number is same as the current number. If it is, I'll just continue. So I'll just continue on to the next number, which is 3. Now for 3, I know it is 1 greater than 2, so I'll just increase it. Now when I encounter the next 3, I know that it is same as the previous number, so I just continue the loop and not do anything in that particular iteration. Then I move on to 4. 4 is 1 greater than 3. Change this to 4. For 100, this will get reset to 1. For 200 also, this will get reset to 1. So max of these will be max is 4, which is our answer. Now, what would be the time complexity of this approach? Sorting the array would be nlogn, and iterating through the array once and doing all this calculation will be O of n. So nlogn will be the overall time complexity. And what about the space complexity? Now, if this input array is sorted without copying it into a new array, and that is what we plan to do, so this will be O of 1. But if the input array cannot be modified and it has to be copied to a new array, then it would be O of n. Okay, let's see now how we'll code this out. We are given an input vector nums, and first of all, let's just sort this according to our proposed solution. So sort nums dot begin dot end. Now after it is sorted, we'll create 2 variables. So int cur length, let it be 1, and max length, which will be our answer, let it be 1 as well. So okay, nums length can be 0 as well. So let's just add that edge case. So if nums dot length is equal to 0, in that case just return 0 directly. Now iterate the array. This should be size. Okay, let's start from the first place, and we'll only do this if nums I is not equal to nums I minus 1. Remember, we discussed that if the previous number is the same, we don't do anything. So I'm just executing this code when they are not the same. Now if nums I is equal to nums of I minus 1 plus 1, in that case I'll do cur length plus plus, and if it is not the same, I'll reset the cur length to 1. But before doing that, I'll also change the max length. So max length is max of max length and cur length. Now once we have that, okay, so this statement won't run if there is an array like let me just give you an example. So 1 2 1 3 and 6 7 8 9 10. So this is the longest consecutive sequence, but at the end of this we won't go into this else loop. So at the end we'll just return, we'll have to do this once again. So I'll just return this thing directly. Okay, now let's try running it. Okay, missing a terminator here. Let's try running it again. Okay, this time the test cases worked. Let's try submitting it. Okay, so this nlogn solution worked. Now let's see how we can improve this solution time complexity to O of n. Now the first solution we discussed involved sorting of the array to bring all the consecutive numbers together and then finding the answer. But what if we can't sort this because sorting is nlogn in time. and we want to solve it in O of n time. Is there a way without sorting we can find out if the sequence is consecutive and also find the longest of those? What if we use the data structure we discussed earlier, which is a hash set? Is there a way to use a hash set in this question? Feel free to pause this video and think about it for some time. Okay, let's start. So let's suppose we are given a hash set, and what we do initially is add all of these numbers into the hash set. So without any computation, just add these directly. So 100, 4, 200, 1, 3, 2. Okay. Now in this set, I go through all the numbers and I try to find. So I try to find a number in which, let's say this is I, and I try to find a number in set, find a number, let's say call it X, such that X minus 1 doesn't exist in the set. So let's say we start in this fashion, and as set we can get the numbers in any order. It doesn't necessarily need to be sorted. So let's say we start with 4. Now 4 minus 1, 3 is already in the set, so we ignore this. Don't start with this. Then we get 2, 2 minus 1, 1 is already in the set, so we need to ignore this as well. Then move to 3, 3 minus 1, 2, 2 is also in the set, so ignore this. Then moving on to 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 is not in the set. So we got the number with which we want to start. Now once we have this 1, we keep on adding 1 to it. So for 1, I start with 1, added 1, 2, check 2 if 2 is in the set or not. Yes, it is. Move on to 1 more, 3, 3 is in the set. Move on to 1 more, 4, 4 is in the set. Move on to 5, 5 is not in the set. So I break it. So this is the max length I got starting with 1. Okay, moving on to the next number in this fashion. Move on to 200, 199. 199 is not in the set, so you can take 199 as the starting number. Sorry, you can take 200 as the starting number. Now with 200, I move on to 201, which is not in the set, so we break out of this loop. Same for 100. 99 is not in this set, so 100 could be one of the starting numbers. We start with 100, but now 101 is not in this number, so here also max length is 1, and same for 200, and here it was 4. So what I return as the answer? Max of this. Now the question you might have is, how is this algorithm's time complexity O of n? Well, this is O of n because everything we are doing here, moving on to the next number, finding if it is in the hash set or not, all of this is O of 1. Only the way we are iterating the hash set, that is O of n. So overall time complexity in this case is O of n. And space complexity is also O of n for the hash set. Now let's see how we will solve this question in code. Now in the previous code, I'll remove some parts of it, so sorting will need to remove. And instead of sorting this, what I'll do is create a as set, which is an unordered set in C++. And let's name it S. And for all numbers in the input array, I'll insert all of those into this set. So let's just do that. Once I have that, Let's just remove this as well. Now I have to iterate over this array. So for auto number in this set, what I want to do is, if s dot find num minus 1 is, if I don't find num minus 1 in the set, then only we can take it as the starting number. So uh, equals to s dot end. So that means I didn't find it in the set. If I didn't find it, I'll start finding the current length. So this current length will go inside here. And now taking it as the starting number, the num minus 1, sorry, the num will be the starting number now. So let's name it cur num, which will be num. And while s dot find, you need to find the next number. So cur num plus 1 is not equal to s dot end. While I keep finding the next number in the set, what I'll do is cur length plus plus. And also cur num, will I increase that? Yes, that also will be increased. And that's it. After that, for max length, I'll just update it. So max length is max of max length comma cur length. Great. That looks good. Okay, at the end of it, I'll just return max length because cur length is locally defined. Let's try running it. Okay, both of the cases worked. Now let's try submitting it. You see, O of n solution also worked out. I hope you got it. If you didn't, feel free to leave a comment. Do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Happy coding.